In the story of humanity, sometimes a single voice rises above the noise, one that refuses to be silenced, even when the world seems deaf to truth. It is a voice that speaks truth and calls for justice, echoing across fields and valleys, reaching the hearts of those who are willing to listen. That voice belonged to Micah, whose very name asked, "Who is like Yahweh?" He was a man shaped by the land, his spirit forged in the quiet strength of the countryside. Micah wasn't from the city or a family of priests. He didn't grow up in the halls of power or among the elite. He was a farmer from Morsheth, a man of the land whose days were spent under the open sky, working the soil with patience and care. His rough hands and humble life gave him a unique perspective. He saw the struggles of ordinary people up close, feeling their burdens as his own. Micah's authority didn't come from power or wealth, but from a divine calling that stirred his soul and set his heart ablaze. God chose this simple man to deliver a message that would shake his nation, a message that would not be easily forgotten. Micah's mission was daunting: to confront kings, priests, and false prophets during a time of moral decay and growing injustice. He stood as the conscience of a nation, carrying words of fire and hope, challenging the powerful and comforting the oppressed. His life proves you don't need status to make a difference. Sometimes the most important truths come from unexpected places, from those who know hardship firsthand. Micah was a farmer, a poet, and a messenger of God, weaving words that still inspire and challenge us today. He saw injustice and suffering and could not remain silent, his compassion driving him to speak out for the voiceless. The Spirit of God gave him courage to speak out, to challenge the comfortable and defend the weak. He became a roaring lion for justice, his words thundering across the land. A defender of the poor, a friend to the forgotten, he stood with those who had no one else, and a prophet who dared to ask, "Who is like our God?" His faith was bold, unshaken by fear or opposition. Faith for Micah was not just quiet prayer, it was bold action lived out in the public square and in daily life. It meant standing for what is right, no matter the cost, even when standing alone. Micah's story reminds us that anyone can be called to speak for those without a voice, to bring hope where there is despair. His voice still echoes, challenging us to look at our world, to seek justice, and to look toward God with courage and compassion. To truly understand Micah, we must step into his world, a world marked by both prosperity and peril, where the surface shimmered with success but deeper cracks threatened everything. This prosperity was built on a fragile foundation, as the very walls of society began to crumble beneath the weight of injustice and greed. The mighty Assyrian Empire loomed on the horizon, and cities like Jerusalem grew rich from trade and tribute, but the wealth was not shared with all. A deep and growing divide separated the rich from the poor. Small farmers and laborers were pushed to the very brink of survival, struggling to hold on to their land and dignity. Land, considered a sacred inheritance passed down through generations, was stolen by the powerful through legal tricks, intimidation, and outright force. The legal system meant to protect the vulnerable became a weapon for the wealthy, twisting justice to serve their own interests. Judges took bribes, and leaders acted like wolves, preying on the people they were meant to serve, showing little mercy or compassion. Even priests and prophets, once trusted guides, were corrupted, selling spiritual guidance and blessings for a price, turning faith into a business. Outwardly, society looked righteous. Rituals continued, sacrifices were made, prayers were offered, but hearts were far from God and true devotion was missing. They believed religious activity made them safe, forgetting that God cares about justice for the vulnerable and the oppressed, not just empty ceremonies. Micah saw the hypocrisy and was heartbroken, feeling the weight of his people's suffering and the emptiness of their worship. He saw a nation marching toward disaster, blinded by its own self-deception and unwilling to heed the warnings of those who cared. The people trusted in rituals, not righteousness, believing that outward acts could cover inward corruption. Micah's world was one of shadows and light, prosperity for some, suffering for many, a society divided by wealth and indifference. He knew he had to shout a warning before it was too late, hoping to awaken hearts before disaster struck. His message was clear. God cares deeply about how we treat one another, and true faith is shown in justice, mercy, and compassion. What does Micah 6:8 mean to you? Comment below. Micah didn't whisper. He roared, his voice echoing through the streets and hills, refusing to be silenced by fear or power. He laid out charges against Israel's leaders with unwavering courage, exposing their wrongdoing in front of all. He accused rulers of loving evil and hating good, painting a vivid picture of their exploitation like cannibals tearing flesh from their own people, devouring those they were meant to protect. Micah confronted corrupt judges and greedy landowners who plotted in secret at night and stole openly by day, their greed knowing no bounds. The land, a sacred gift from God, was being stolen and divided, betraying the covenant that bound the people together. Spiritual leaders were no better. Priests taught only for a fee. Prophets spoke for money, twisting their message to favor those who paid the most. They promised peace and blessings to the wealthy, while threatening and neglecting those who couldn't pay, deepening the divide in society. Micah called them frauds, deceivers who led people astray with empty promises and false assurances, trading truth for profit. Because of this deep corruption, Micah announced a terrifying judgment. A day would come when the leaders would cry out to God for help, but he would not answer. God's silence would be their punishment. They had ignored the desperate cries of the poor, so God would ignore their own pleas in their hour of need. Divine justice would prevail. What you sow, you will surely reap. Every action has its consequence. Micah reminded them that God sees everything. The bribes exchanged in darkness, the secret deals, and the silent tears of the oppressed. A day of reckoning was coming, a time when every hidden deed would be brought to light and justice would be served. Micah's message was clear. God demands justice, not empty rituals or hollow traditions. True faith is shown in action, not just words. The powerful would be held accountable, no matter their status or wealth. The cries of the oppressed would not go unheard. Their pain would finally be acknowledged. Micah's words cut through the lies, demanding real change and a return to justice and compassion. His cry against injustice still challenges us today, reminding us that the call for justice is timeless and must never be ignored. Micah saw Jerusalem as the epicenter of moral decay. The city's wealth was built on blood and suffering, its splendor a mask for injustice. Every level of leadership was compromised, rulers, judges, priests, all driven by greed. The people felt falsely secure, believing rituals would protect them. They separated religion from ethics, thinking God cared only for temple rituals, not daily life. Micah shattered this illusion, declaring Jerusalem would become a heap of rubble. God's justice mattered more than any building, even the temple. The unthinkable would happen, because justice was more important than tradition. Don't forget to subscribe for more Bible studies. Micah's warnings were not empty threats. He saw the storm coming. The Assyrian Empire would be the instrument of God's judgment. Judah's sins would have real consequences. Their social decay made them vulnerable. The wealthy who stole land would lose their own. The people would be exiled. Micah mourned for his people, grieving the coming disaster. A true prophet, he loved those he rebuked. His warnings came from desperate love, not anger. God is sovereign over history, using nations to accomplish his purposes. The covenant was a two-way relationship. Breaking it meant losing God's protection. Judgment was not cruelty, but justice, the painful result of their choices. Micah's message, God's justice is real and actions have consequences. The people's false security would be shattered. Exile would be the price of injustice. Yet even in judgment, Micah's grief reflected God's own sorrow. The call was clear: return to justice or face the consequences. Amid darkness, Micah offered hope, a new beginning from an unlikely place. He looked past corrupt Jerusalem to a small village, Bethlehem. From this humble town, Micah prophesied, would come a ruler for Israel. God would bypass the powerful, choosing the overlooked. The future king would be a true shepherd, leading with God's strength, not force. Under his rule, people would live securely. His greatness would reach the ends of the earth. This vision was hope for the common people. God sees and uses the small and humble. The prophecy became a beacon through centuries of waiting. Even in exile, God's promise remained. When wise men sought a newborn king, they turned to Micah's words. God brings hope from humble places, strength from what the world calls weak. Micah's vision, redemption would come, not from power, but from humility. Micah's hope grew into a vision of global peace. He saw a future where all nations would seek God's wisdom, drawn not by force but by truth. Jerusalem would become a center for justice, not violence. God's law would unite humanity, breaking down barriers. The result, a world without war, swords turned into plowshares, spears into pruning hooks. Tools of violence would become tools for life. Every person would sit under their own vine and fig tree, unafraid. This was the ultimate symbol of peace and well-being. Micah's prophecy gave hope. Injustice and violence are not the final word. God's plan is for a world of peace and security for all. If this message speaks to you, hit like and share. Micah's message reached its climax in a dramatic courtroom scene. God asked his people, "What have I done to you? How have I burdened you?" The people, confused, offered more rituals and sacrifices, missing the point. They thought God wanted ceremony, not changed hearts. Micah cut through the confusion with his famous answer. He has shown you what is good. What does the Lord require? Not endless rituals, but three things. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. This is the heart of true faith. It's about our actions toward others and our attitude toward God. Micah's words are a timeless summary of what pleases God: justice, mercy, and humility. This is what God desires. Before you go, if this message inspired you, hit like and drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next study. And if you know someone who needs this encouragement, share this video with them today. Let's walk in justice, mercy, and hope together. Micah's call, act justly, love mercy, walk humbly, still echoes today. The world has changed, but the struggle for justice remains. We are still called to confront systems that favor the powerful and neglect the vulnerable. Justice is urgent, mercy is radical compassion, humility is recognizing our dependence on God. Walking humbly keeps us from self-righteousness and grounds our pursuit of justice and mercy. Micah's story proves God can use anyone to speak truth and bring change. His message holds judgment and hope in tension. God will not tolerate injustice, but his plan is for healing and peace. The question remains, what does the Lord require of me? The answer endures: do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God.